There's a big misunderstanding is that women are risk averse, which means they just don't want to take on risk. But the truth is that women are risk aware. They better understand how risk can impact them. So
Mm,
they are more likely to invest their money in a way that balances the risk. So when
yeah.
the markets crash or things go wrong, they lose less money, it recovers faster because men typically, like again, not to
Yes.
stereotype, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of yeah, men typically are not as risk aware. They are more impulsive about investment
Yeah.
decisions and then be
Yeah.
more likely to sell when things are going wrong and try to
Yeah.
course correct. And so because women are risk aware, we're actually making smarter, conscious decisions that are going to benefit us better long term.
Dishonesty, disrespectful, discrimination, detached, dismissive. That's it. I'm done. Relationships can be messy. Are you having trouble with your personal or professional relationship? Not to worry. As a relationship therapist and coach for over 25 years, I have a lot to share. And so will my guest experts. Let's get smarter in our business and personal lives so we can be our best selves. Now, let's get on with the show.
Welcome back to episode 22 of Mixing Business with Pleasure. I'm your host, Luella Young, and today I have with me Stephanie Mahoney. She began her career in wealth management over 10 years ago. As an investment advisor with Canada's largest wealth managers, she developed a passion for working with clients before pivoting to Wealth Simple, where she could help regular Canadians better manage their finances. Now, currently, she's the head of portfolio management and operations with a startup that is providing a tech platform to advisors to help them better serve Canadians' needs. She is also launching a wealth practice focused specifically on working with women through life transitions. So, is that exciting or what? I think that's fantastic, Stephanie. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Lila. I'm excited to be here.
Well, okay. So, I want to know, how did you start off in like with like after graduating high school, I mean university, did you were you always in the area of finance?
By accident, I was. And I
Oh,
say that because I grew up with I had a my dad was in the financial industry, and as a classic 16-year-old, I thought, no, not for me. I'm not going to do business. I'm going to go totally different direction.
yeah.
And then I ended up when came time to get my first, big girl job. I had been babysitting for a neighbor who had three beautiful little girls, and he happened to be in HR at one of the big banks and said, okay, you want to get a real job? I trust you with my babies. I can trust you with an entry-level job at the bank. So
Wow.
I did my summers through I started very like back office at the bank, very entry level. And through that, I kind of found wealth management because I thought it was fascinating that everything that seemed to happen on that side of the business was different every day.
Mm,
So I stumbled into it, but once I found it, I feel blessed that it really sat well with me. And as my career has twisted and turned, and I've found different areas of this business that I find so exciting, it's been quite a journey. But by accident, yeah, I ended up completing my economics degree, and my first job was at 17 years old at the bank. So 16 years later, I'm still kicking it in the wealth
how
management.
how cool. Wow. Yeah, I love the way that seed was planted. So
Yeah.
okay, and then okay, so you graduated from economics, so I'm guessing you're about like 22ish, 23.
Yeah.
And then what?
And
You just went right into the banks? Yeah.
so I was very fortunate to have some really incredible mentors that I worked with throughout my time as a summer student. And I had, being in kind of like the entry level space, I was like, okay, I want to go to the big head office. I want to get a job there. and see what the other side of the business is like. And so I got an offer to go to one of the other banks in their head office on the wealth management side in compliance, which I have a lot of respect for. But I was there for about 5 seconds when I realized compliance does not make my heart sing.
No.
And by chance, I had been with a friend of mine who knew somebody who was looking for a wealth advisor associate.
Mm.
And so I ended up working as an associate for a incredible team at one of the big wealth management firms that's bank owned, and was there for about 3.5 years before I decided, hey, I want to try doing this myself and work for myself and build clients on my own there.
Mhm.
So that was really the experience of working with a team that I could see firsthand every day, the impact they're having on people's lives, the way that having a good team in your corner can completely change the course of your financial direction. And
Mhm.
so it really inspired me to kind of go that route. But it was daunting. I was, at the time, I think I was the second youngest advisor in that office of about 50. And I was, I think, the fifth woman that was hired into that office. So I was
Right.
very young. Not many people in the boardroom looked like me, and I didn't feel like
No.
I had any place there, but I said, let's go, let's give this a shot. So that's how I got more into the space of actually giving advice to people myself.
So you were the only one there with long blonde hair then?
Yeah, that's definitely true. And like my
Yeah,
sister
yeah.
is also in the industry, and
Okay.
we have an ongoing joke, like, was there any other woman in your meetings today? Like,
Right, right.
what's our woman meeting today count? And it's always pretty low, which is too bad.
Okay, so there still is that thing with like a bunch of old men with cigars in the back room then. It-
Yeah, there definitely is. And I think that I like in Canada, less than 15%, I think is the most recent stat of advisors are female. And I think like there's just not that many women that have been trying to get into that side of the industry. And
Hmm.
I think that that's perpetuated by the idea that, you know, you think about like Wolf of Wall Street
Yeah.
and all these loud, confident guys yelling about stocks. And that's a
Yeah.
really hard environment for a woman to think, hey, that sounds like a great spot to plant my future.
Right, right. No, no. I
Right.
can't say I
So,
fell asleep at night as a little girl just dreaming of being on the floor of Wall
no,
Street.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I was never that like to this day, like the stock market isn't the center of my universe. Like I like the market, but wealth management and giving advice to people is so much more about personal relationships. Like I
Mm.
joke, I'm a part-time therapist, not as good as you, or licensed to do that.
Or
But
licensed. Let's just say licensed. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. But like you're kind of like part-time therapist, part-time coach, part-time reality check, part-time just, a listening ear.
Yeah.
And so the skill set that I think really great advisors have is very natural to women. But because the
Mm.
people that are hiring, making these decisions aren't women, there's not very many women at the top in this industry. So it makes it hard to get a holding. And I think that there is movement and change, but it's difficult to see in this industry for a few different reasons. And that's been one of the reasons that I wanted to explore different routes in Canada, because I thought, there must be a place where somebody like me can be at this point in my career and feel comfortable to show up as my authentic self and what comes
Yeah.
along with that, and find clients that are comfortable coming into the office talking to me and working with me and not feel intimidated by that
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, like when I think about, you know, like my hairdresser and I joke about how she's more of a therapist than I am as well, right? Because like you're sitting there for 2 hours, what else are you gonna do, right? So, but
Yeah.
no, like as you're speaking, I can totally see what you're saying because I mean, when someone sits across from me, they have to, yeah, like put out like start exercising a lot of trust, right? Like, I mean, I'm dealing with their mind, and that's that's no easy task, and something you don't like easily, welcome somebody into, right? But money is not that far, probably second place there. It's sort of like, okay, these are my finances, and are you actually going to help me through this, or am I just another? cog in the wheel, right? Of your many, yeah. So,
Exactly. And I think that there's, especially women, I think we carry a lot of shame and fear around our
mhm,
finances. It kind of feels like somebody reading
yes.
your diary. And if you are sharing that with somebody that you don't feel is going to receive you in that way,
Hmm.
like the average age of advisors in Canada is in the mid 50s. And so, and 85% of those are men. As a 33-year-old woman, if I'm going to pour my heart out to somebody, that might not be the most comfortable situation to be in.
Right.
And so how do you provide advice as a professional if your clients can't trust you fully? And that's something that I think a lot of advisors, in the old school way, you choose an advisor because they're going to promise you the best returns.
Yeah.
That could be a whole other tangent of conversation,
Right.
but I really think you should choose an advisor that you can sit down with and ask questions and feel like you're being heard,
Yeah.
because I don't believe there are stupid questions in this business. There have been so many things in the financial industry that have been intentionally overcomplicated to keep people out and to
Yeah.
keep it a very productive financial machine. Like banks are some of the most successful stocks, like essentially runs the Canadian economy. And
Hmm.
so like the people who are giving you advice from these different firms, like they're not coming in there because they necessarily, a lot of great advisors from there, but the bank is mandated to make money,
Yeah.
um, not earn your trust and keep your trust. And so I think that if you can sit down in front of somebody and feel heard and ask your questions, you deserve an advisor, somebody that will sit down and take the time to make sure you understand and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But trust is the biggest element in my business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and like I know I'm realizing that over the course of my last year as well, like learning, this industry is that um it's just terminology. Like it's a matter of taking out a financial dictionary and learning the terms, right? Like and I'm realizing that there's three different words for like one meaning,
Yeah,
I'm just like,
absolutely.
Why?
It's overwhelming. Like my very first day as an associate, there was two things I did. And we talked about like, did I really start in the finance space? Like, I was not the kid reading financial newspapers. I wasn't the person running to open an investment account. So my
Right.
first day as an associate, I started writing down on a paper just under my desk, like different terms that I would hear that I didn't feel comfortable asking what they meant. And then I would Google them later.
Yes.
But the
Yes.
first time, like somebody asked me to name a stock ticker, which is for anybody who doesn't know, just like those couple of letters that identify one company from another when you're buying
Yeah.
and selling stocks. I couldn't even name one. So
No.
when I started and now like coming through the process and like having been as a wealth advisor for as long as I have now, like if you are given the right tools to learn and you have
Yeah.
someone that is there that's going to be patient and explain things to you simple with human language, you
Yeah.
know, everybody is smart enough to invest on their own or invest at least in a way that they feel really confident and comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. And actually then it gets exciting. Like once you start like you know have your way around it and you start learning these terms and you start seeing, what your investments are actually doing or not doing, it becomes it becomes super exciting.
Yeah,
Um
I think there's like I live for the light bulb moment with clients when you
yeah.
see the understanding click. Have you had a light bulb moment over the last year as you've been exploring the industry?
Well, that's a good question. I think, I mean, just in a very general term, is that it's just sort of what you said. It's not that foreign. It's not that complicated as um, I've thought it was. And then, I mean, before we started recording, I did share with you that I'm moving, my investments from a managed wealth advisory company to a robo advisor, and just I've had a lot more conversations with that company over the last 6 months for various reasons because I was taking some money out, I was moving money. And they were like, whoa, 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 what's happening here? Even though I was only with them 3 or 4 years, and I was like, I appreciate your concern,
Mhm.
but I've got this, sort of thing. And then they would, I'm not gonna, I'll tell you. I'll tell you after the recording, like some of the things how they addressed me, and um it was like they were ready to send, you know, like someone to make sure like I'm doing okay, or like it was sort of like, I don't know, I just felt so low in their eyes, just so, yeah,
It's a
so
lot of condescension, I think.
that's a great word. Yeah.
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 And I'm so sorry to hear that that was your experience, but also I think that's the experience of not just women, but it does typically, women that I've spoken to, um, really struggle with that feeling.
Mhm.
And like, I think that as women, we're always battling the idea of, as women in finance, for sure, I know I've dealt a lot with imposter syndrome and, who am I
Yeah.
to give this advice and be this person to people. But then at the same time, I've had experiences where, I had a client when I was working on an old team of mine who was meeting, she was in her 40s, she stood to inherit quite a bit of money, and she came in to meet with an advisor at my office, and um meeting went really well. Everybody came out happy, and about a half hour later she called me. She was like, okay, I felt really stupid asking this in the meeting, but what is a dividend? They kept on telling
Oh,
people dividend.
yeah, no, I know.
That is such a fair question. Why?
Of
Like, that's
course.
not a regular terminology, but
Right.
it's in its simplest form, a dividend is a company paying you some of their returns to thank you for owning a little piece of the company, you know?
Exactly.
And so this is what you mean about, like, it's actually not all that foreign. And if you
No,
can't explain to somebody simply, I don't think you understand it very well at all. And
I
so how do
know.
we bridge that gap for people to explain things simply? And I think some of the online options are doing a really good job of that. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to see them pick up more momentum and touch more people that feel like they get hurt and they're understanding their finances better now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Oh man, there's many of those terms that I, yeah, felt, and it's so silly when you think about it, because it's like me turning it around and asking them, to tell me, what does ODD stand for, or like, I mean, some terms in the DSM-5, for example, or whatever. Like, it's, yeah, like, why would I feel stupid asking about that? It's not my field.
Yeah,
It,
and like we're not educated in personal finances. Like, hope
no.
continue to change, but like, and there's a, a really big gap in the way that there's been a study that was done actually in the US around even just like difference between men and women, and articles that were written with men as the intended audience talked about building wealth through investing, which is the most powerful way to build your wealth. But then articles that were written targeting women building their wealth is don't buy that purse, don't buy that coffee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not only do we not have any formal education about it, but all of the media that is targeting women is not actually really giving us the tools that we need, but men are getting different tools. And that's systemic. That's not just happening. That's
Right.
an intentional thing that institutions have done and targeted because men control the money, but that's changing.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Like, yeah, women are probably told like not to save. I mean, or to save. Yeah, don't buy that coffee. Don't buy.
Yeah.
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 And women statistically are far better savers than men, but
Yes.
they invest a lot less of their money because
Yes.
of the fear of not understanding the markets. But
Yes.
when we do invest, women consistently outperform men
Mm.
because we make smarter, more risk-aware decisions.
Mm.
So that's like, I think, such a kicker in terms of, okay, so we know that when women get the right tools, they will succeed, and they're also more likely to contribute towards their community's success than men are.
Mm. Mm.
But there are not many places for women to get unbiased advice from somebody they can trust, that they can relate to. And
Mm.
so I think that that's something that, as people talk a lot about the shift and boomers retiring and what's going to happen to the wealth, like women are going to control more wealth in Canada than men by 2028,
Cool.
which is very cool. But it also is a little bit scary because the institutions that have typically been there to provide advice for people are not equipped to understand what women need from
Mm,
financial
mm.
institutions in the same way that they have been, because what has worked for them in the past, it's not going to work in the future.
Right. Okay. So they don't have the infrastructure, yeah, to be prepared for that.
Or the type of advisor that like women want to have more emotionally focused conversations about money. They're not as focused on what will help them sleep at night. What's your outcome? What's causing you stress?
Right.
Men are more traditionally, well, what return am I going to get? How much money can I make? And
Yeah.
so if you only trained advisors to have those types of conversations, how do you adjust that to who is now going to be controlling the money that are expecting and hoping for a very different interaction with their financial institutions?
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I know. Like, I hate even, I mean, I'm even guilty of it sometimes, like stereotyping, the genders, right? But I mean, I think women are, you know, known more like to be irrational and overly emotional and allow their emotions to make the decisions and stuff like that, whereas men are, analytical and um but no, I mean, as you said the statistics show that women in general do make better investors, and for what specific reason again? Because they.
There's a few reasons, because there's a big misunderstanding is that women are risk averse, which means they just don't want to take on risk. But the truth is that women are risk aware. They better understand how risk can impact them. So
Mm,
they are more likely to invest their money in a way that balances the risk. So when
yeah.
the markets crash or things go wrong, they lose less money, it recovers faster, because men typically, like again, not to
Yes.
stereotype, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of, yeah, men typically are not as risk aware. They are more impulsive about investment
Yep.
decisions, and then be
Yeah.
more likely to sell when things are going wrong and try
Yeah.
to course. And so, because women are risk aware, we're actually making smarter, conscious decisions that are going to benefit us better long term. But
Mhm.
yeah, the difference, like the discrepancy, I believe it's about 1% of outperformance for
Mm,
women investors compared to men, which doesn't sound like a lot. But if you're returning on average 10% a year,
mhm.
1% can add up. Like we were talking
Yeah.
about before, the percentage versus dollar amounts. It
Yeah.
can be a big dollar amount, especially as you really accumulate and build your wealth.
Right. Okay, so tell me more about like the company that you're about to launch, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, like I wear a few different hats right now. My full-time job, I work with a company, it's called Super Advisor, and they are a VC funded startup
Mm,
that basically, looked at the Canadian financial space and said that there's options for people who don't really want a human with like online brokers. There's
mhm,
options for people who want the traditional human wealth management experience. But there's not a lot of options in the middle. And in my experience, advisors, when I was an advisor with one of the big bank firms, any money I make, I don't get paid a salary. Any money I make, I give half of the revenue to the firm, which means that you have to charge your clients quite a
mm,
bit of money because you're not pocketing that money. Half
yeah.
of it going for the right to use the big brand name and the big office tower
Mm,
downtown.
mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing in the US a lot of independent advisors, which basically means that instead of going to a big institution, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to go to a more simple kind of strip back platform where they keep more of their revenue so they can charge their
Mm-hmm.
clients less money,
Mm-hmm.
get better technology to serve their clients. So technology helps fill in the gaps that at traditional firms you have to hire more people for, which
Right.
also costs money. And guess who
Yeah.
pays the cost is clients.
Mhm.
And so at our company, what we wanted to do was create a platform where advisors could use our platform to run their business, work with clients, very tech enabled. So they have to spend less to run their business
Mhm.
and make it really cost effective for them so that in turn, they can charge their clients less and give them better service.
Mhm.
And so that's my main project right now professionally, but through that the beautiful thing is that I get to also start bringing on my own clients again. And
Mm.
so I'm very excited to be launching my own practice,
Mhm.
and my whole career I've wanted to focus on working unapologetically with women.
Yeah.
I've been told a lot that that's not the smart move because men make most of the financial decisions. And I want to call, I'm going to call the bluff. I
Yeah.
want to, I'm going to focus on unapologetically on women, especially women in life transition. So you're getting married, you're getting divorced, you've been widowed, and create a space that feels really comfortable, absolutely no jargon, with language and fee structures, everything that, regular people can understand.
Yeah, no, wonderful. And what is the name so that when it does come out, people can
Yeah.
associate
Yeah. So
you with
I'm
it?
hoping to launch within the next 6 months. But the name is Maven Well.
I love it.
And yes, yes, just to feel like there's a safe, really vibrant community. I have a dream
Yeah.
of setting up just a network of women that it would be kind of a one-stop shop for a woman to adult, like
Yeah.
like real estate partners, lawyers, therapists, and that I know that I trust that are genuine, like good people, and build an incredible network of women across the country to boost each other up because
Yeah.
women connect so powerfully.
Oh, yeah.
It is the most beautiful part about being a woman. And
Yeah.
anybody who's ever been in the bathroom at a
Yeah,
bar can
exactly.
tell you that.
I love what you're wearing. Where did you get that?
Yeah, you're so beautiful. Yeah. It's the most beautiful community in the world. And I think that instead of doing things apart, if we can find ways to band together. So yeah, I'm looking forward. I'll definitely update you when Maven is launched because I'm really, really excited about that. Just to actually focus on, okay, there's this gap I see. Let's create a
Yeah.
space and feel really comfortable and empower them so that they can make more money and feel more confident in what their future looks like.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a shot in the dark at all what you're doing because I mean, honestly, too, having, being someone that has worked a lot with relationships, I mean, what house what relationship do you know that they're not both equally working, like they're both career orientated, and I mean that's more the normal now than abnormal, and therefore and I mean, I always tell couples too, it's no longer, it's we. You're now like us,
Yes.
our money. Therefore, like, why would you give all the decisions over to your partner, right? Like it's our money. It goes in, well, hopefully, I always recommend a joint account and then individual accounts after that.
Mhm.
But
Excuse this brief interruption, but I would be bereft not to share this wonderful opportunity with you. I am now accepting new clients to be coached. Nothing makes me happier than to jump on this podcast with you weekly, but the majority of my time is actually spent creating and customizing one on one client experiences. The link to my website explaining what this all looks like will be linked in the show notes, and I invite you to check it out. Now, let's get back to the show.
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's a great discussion because, so a study done a few years ago showed that 48% of women entrust financial decisions to their spouse, and less than 20% of couples make decisions together. And I've seen this firsthand. Being at a online brokerage where we were giving investment advice, I spoke to thousands of Canadians in 2 years there. And it was very often, more traditionally, it would be the man that's making the decision. And I would ask, well, let's have a call with your partner,
Hmm.
like, let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And no, no, she's not interested. She doesn't care about it. Let's just leave her out of it. And I can't, in good conscience, give you financial advice
Mm.
or open an account that she's on without
Mm.
having a conversation with her. And there's a big block there. And a lot of it is driven by the spouse that's not comfortable with money.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in a situation where they feel intimidated.
Yeah.
And I also found that they also don't want to look incapable in front of their spouse sometimes too.
Right.
And sometimes separating those conversations I found can be really helpful. But there have been times where I've left a room in a financial planning meeting because couples are so far apart from being on the same page. And
Mm.
you must see it all the time too. And it's hard to reconcile that
Yeah.
and then transition to a place of unity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation about conflict and what's causing the conflict in a relationship, and yeah,
Yeah.
managing the finances is a big one as well as. a couple other ones.
And I think
So,
that the expectations as well of what you think of for your spouse. Like I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently who's getting married and doing all of that, and her partner earns more. And so like she's like, do people do 50-50? And it's like, well, what is 50-50 to you? You
yeah.
know, if you're it's double the amount. Maybe it's 66% of expenses, 33%, like whatever way you want to break it down. But I think that being able to have open and honest conversations about money, and this is something that I hope to be able to work with through Maven as well, is, is there a toolkit for you're getting married? Like, what are our prompts for conversations? Or even you are married and you're having frustrations with
Mhm.
expectations and reality. Like, so how are we actually bringing up these conversations together? And what is it going to take for us to both feel like we're contributing and being seen for our contributions?
Yeah, yeah. No, this is great. Well, okay, so getting into maybe a little bit more of um the personal side, especially when it comes to the way you've sort of moved through, your career and stuff like that, and about to start up, your own company, which is super exciting. Would you say, like, as a human, there's as exciting as this all sounds, like, would you say that there's thoughts of, you know, whatever those thoughts are that enter your mind at times that are uncomfortable, that you might acknowledge and realize I can't push them down, but I'm acknowledging them. Like,
Mhm.
let how about some of the uncomfortable times that you've gone through in your career and either moved through, or you're still kind of challenged with, as a human?
I love that question. And I think that throughout my career, I would say the two major themes at play that I battle with to this day is um, having the confidence to show up authentically instead of feeling like I have to be, a sheep dressed in wolf's clothing or a woman presenting like a man with that same energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it took me 10 years before I went into a meeting with pink nails. You know what I mean? Like
Okay,
there are
yeah.
little things like
Yeah.
that, especially like a blonde. I like just was younger, and I always just felt like I had to present a different version of myself to be taken seriously.
Right.
And it's incredible what happens after you turn 30.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I
it
I
just
had
keeps
this
on getting
realization.
better, Steph. It just keeps on getting
I
better.
hear that. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. It's a
Yeah.
privilege to age. So to be able to do that and then feeling like I think I hit this moment around 30 where I thought, it's not a weakness to be able to show up and be different. It's actually my superpower because there are going to be people that see themselves in me and that can foster greater connection. But it's still a constant thing of, well, I can't be too much. I can't be too girly. I can't be seem too young or not seem too old or
Right.
I be if I'm too nice,
Yeah.
like it's so that's really challenging and it feels like you put effort into your appearance and then you don't want to be taken like over you're not
Yeah.
putting too much effort into your appearance so you're
Right.
not it's exhausting
Oh God.
exhausting to be a professional woman. So that
Ex-
has been a really big one that I battle with. And the other major theme that I touched on briefly was the imposter syndrome.
yeah.
Uh, because I look around the industry and I'm fortunate to have so many incredible advisors in my network. But for a long time, I didn't see myself in the people that I was surrounded by that were very technical, very stock focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was kind of faking it. And then I had one day where I overheard one of my colleagues on the phone talking about a research meeting that had happened earlier that day. And I heard him telling his client something that I knew wasn't true. I had been in the same meeting, but he said it with so much confidence that I almost believed him. And then I
Wow.
realized that like there's so many people around us, like we are all we are all
Yeah.
faking it till we make it in a way.
Yeah.
So at the very
Yeah.
least, I'm going to be upfront and honest about where my gaps are,
Right.
but try to find the confidence because people who are exuding that confidence, they don't necessarily have what it takes to back it up either. But you do feel that a lot, especially as I think a woman when you're dealing with a really male dominated space that's a lot of a very specific type of personality as well. It's very strong,
Yeah.
outgoing, and stubborn.
Yeah. I was going to say headstrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So if I'm hearing you right, then like it's sort of like you probably walked around with a lot of possibly feelings of shame and guilt at times in your life when now looking back you realize that was so unnecessary, you know? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, and I think that that's like the growth, and like if I could give
Yeah.
one piece of advice to a woman who is starting on my path of the career is, you know, find a couple of allies. They don't have to be
Yeah.
women, but find a
Yeah.
couple of allies that will keep your head clear when
Yeah.
when your head wants to explode.
Yeah.
Because it feels very frustrating. But I was really fortunate. Like one of my closest friends, we went through new advisor training together. We worked together very closely. We hosted women in wealth seminars.
Hmm.
But most women don't have an ally like that in the industry, but that will be what keeps you sane.
Yeah.
and and to the shame piece, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about working with women, because like that's even something I experienced, like, and I have experienced in my romantic relationships too,
Mhm.
you know, like having a partner that wants to drive the financial discussions and make me feel like a passenger, and like my opinion isn't as valid, and I'm a professional. And so
Yeah.
if I'm being made to feel, you know, first of all, that's me needing to find my voice and speak up on that. But also
Mhm.
then think about how many other women must feel this way. And
Mhm.
I can help. So I it's a constant battle of quieting the shame and guilt that I feel in my head, or even, you know, if I splurge on something, I'm like, oh, I for financial advisor, I gotta should be
Yeah,
more
yeah,
careful,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, 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 no, yeah, no, no.
Coming with the
Yeah.
idea that we're all a little bit imperfect, and I think with flaws and all the different growth that you go through, that instead of seeing it as a weakness, then you can see it as, you know, I've had these experiences, I've made mistakes,
Yeah.
let me be really honest and genuine with you about what that is, and help you hopefully save from the same mistakes that I've made. And then like what
Yes.
else have I learned, and how can I share that?
Yeah. No, wonderful. That's perfect. It's perfect. And as you were talking too, like maybe my situation is a little bit of an odd duck type of situation, but like, well, I am an odd duck, I think, in many ways. But
Yeah.
my husband actually was the complete opposite. It was kind of interesting because I mean, he worked for the city of Winnipeg, recently retired, and then also had his own other, he still runs his own business on the side. And anyway, it was sort of, whereas I was always a solopreneur, and ran my own business, and sort of like my investments, were sort of, yeah, they were investments, and it was in the banks mainly. It wasn't in stocks, but like whatever GICs. And he always said to me, that's yours. Like that's basically your pension. So you do you. Like I'm not gonna, I have my pension, that's yours. And but in hindsight now, I wish he would have talked to me a little bit more because it really wasn't my area at all. And so whenever the bank would call up and say it and said, do you want to what's the term? Well, they
Like
were term deposits, but do you want,
or turnover, yeah,
yeah,
redeposit.
you want to continue? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, sounds good. Hang up the phone. Okay, I have other things to do. I don't want to talk to you about my, which is so stupid because then it was like, it started at a great interest rate, but then it dropped to 3.5, then it dropped to 2, and then 1.5. And all of a sudden, then one day I woke up and I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
why did I, but so
How did we
anyway,
get here?
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think what you want in an ideal relationship, right, is for you and your partner to sit down and actually collaborate, and discuss, like, I mean, obviously it's you earn the income, it's, I guess you have the number one say, but, um, in just
How
listen
can
to
we
each
be a
other's
team?
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
one of the things that like I say, and I'm sure you have lots of different ways that you talk to couples about this, but one of the things I suggest is like grab a bottle of wine, go out to a restaurant you've wanted to go to, make a favorite dinner at home, and have like a fun night where you reward yourself for sitting down and having what might be an uncomfortable conversation.
Yes.
Make it something to look forward to, and always start the conversation with, I want the best for you, and I trust and I know that you want the best for me.
Right.
We are on the same team.
Yeah.
And so like having a conversation in that spirit, I think is so incredible. But I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that have a similar story to yours. Like, oh, I put my money here when I was younger. And then, and then I didn't really realize until later. And one of the things that I really try to push home with the people in my life is, the earlier you can get good advice, the better.
Yeah.
But the trouble is that when you invest through a bank, like if you just walk into a bank branch, they're only able to sell you a handful of different things.
Yeah.
And they're not incentivized to give you advice. They're incentivized to sell you products. So they
Yeah.
don't care, whether or not that GIC or that mutual fund is the right thing for you in the big
Hmm.
picture of things, as long as they can check the box that it's suitable and that
Yeah.
they ask questions, then that's what you'll get invested in.
Yeah.
And so I was so excited to hear that you've been on kind of a discovery journey of uncovering those things, because I think
Mhm.
once you start looking, you can find great resources, but it's
Yes.
the starting that's really daunting.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so okay, so I mean, it sounds like you're very passionate about your work, and to me it's only going to get busier and more exciting. So how are you putting up like the guardrails when it when it comes to like your career not taking over your life? Like are
Yeah.
there certain like, suggestions that or some things you've learned to do?
It's a really good question and an ongoing problem. Um, I I had a very rude awakening in 2021. I was at the time, any in the stock market, COVID had happened. It was a
Mm.
crazy period, really busy. I was working 12 plus hours a day, and I felt I was burning out, but I couldn't slow down. And on the day of my 30th birthday, I went to Whistler and I fell and I hit my head on my first run of the day.
Oh my
And it was my
gosh.
fourth concussion. I was an athlete growing up. And I was so completely debilitated from it that I had to take a complete step back from work and was only able to work part-time for almost a year. And it was this crazy wake-up call, because from the time I started to when I was 30, I wanted to hustle and grind, spend all my time working, like work hard, play hard, do it all.
Yeah,
And that was my body saying, this is not going to be possible.
right.
And so the beautiful gift that came out of that is once I was able to start working again, I kind of had to set boundaries for my own recovery from recovering from a concussion again. And so I got a lot better at taking the time away from my computer. But I would say the things that light up my life, like I have incredible girlfriends. Like I have a group of girlfriends here. We watch some really high class reality TV every Thursday. We talk, we vent out.
Every
And
Tuesday? Every
every
Tuesday?
Thursday, sorry, yeah, every
No,
Thursday.
no, no, I didn't care about like,
Oh,
but
sorry.
once a week. Yeah.
Yeah, once a week. Yeah, once a week.
Mhm.
So we're on a hiatus over the summer because we're all traveling quite a bit. But
Yeah.
like to have times of your week that are carved out for what's going to recharge your battery. And like my sister-in-law, we always joke about too, like you need to have you need to have a rot day, like where you
Oh.
just sit and rot and don't do anything else. You're shutting down the world, you're watching your Netflix, you're doing your thing. So I
Right.
try to have one of those in my week.
The
That's
the the clay mask and or
yeah, exactly. Yeah, just sit on the couch, nobody bug me. I'm gonna order my favorite food.
yeah.
But for me, I'm an extrovert, but I am but I'm an extroverted introvert. I need to recharge that way.
Yes. Yes.
So that's been my kind of thing, is as long as I have some of that time blocked off, I can stay sane with balancing everything else,
Mm.
because I even have a hard time, like when I talk to girlfriends or anything, I want to talk about this stuff. And I think one of the biggest things that women can do to close the gender wealth gap is have conversations about money with their friends. So we
Mhm.
will end up talking about, savings, investments over wine and all of that. But to
Mhm.
me, that is actually really one of my favorite parts of my life, in the way they intersect in a really joyful way.
Mhm.
So just I think having that balance of being able to you're going to be around people that will respect the boundaries of the days you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Uh, but that you also have people in your life that are excited for you and you can share that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not married, so like those are my people, that's my network, and my family is the same thing. So
Mm.
it's a very not clear defined work life. I think that's the thing about working with money and personal finance is that it all blends together in a lot of ways, but provided
Yeah.
I have my solo quiet time, my
Yeah.
girlfriend time, I can make it through anything, I think.
Well, that's wonderful to have that support network like that. And would you say you work long days, or do you have cutoff times, or?
Yeah, like in the startup world, one of the great things is that there is like I work from home. There's a lot of flexibility in that way. My team is like we're all pretty, whatever is going to be the most productive for you to get the job done.
Yeah.
So like there are some days that I will, be working from 8 to 3 and then have to do something for a couple of hours and then I'm working again from 8 till 11 p.m. Or
Yeah.
it varies, but I think that the situation I'm in now, I'm very lucky that there is good balance. I work hard, but it's not 12 hours a day anymore, which
Great.
that was the point where I thought, I don't think this is sustainable for having a life outside of that. So after you've done that kind of push,
Yeah.
anything less than that feels like a whole ton of
Oh,
freedom. Great.
yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So it gives you time to do food prep, or yeah, like you say, run an errand, take care of yourself.
Yeah, just go on a walk outside.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. In beautiful Vancouver. No kidding. Um, and no partner.
No, no,
Okay.
no. Yeah.
But you do have extra time. Yeah.
Yeah. It depends. I don't know. Does dating take up more time or less time than having a partner? Depends how, how much you're
Very
doing.
good. Very good point. Yeah. I would
No,
say I would say more.
it depends how much energy you have. No, but no, I enjoy dating. I enjoy my life as it is. I was engaged before, and through that, actually, there was a lot of, blind spots that came up around, you know, what my experience had been with working with as well, like women in partnerships and relationships. And when you're in that position where you're about to walk down the aisle with somebody and those conversations get really real. And,
Yeah.
we ended up getting very financially entangled and exiting that relationship would have almost completely bankrupted me.
Wow.
And because we had owned property together. And so if me as a professional financial advisor can get into a situation like that, I think one of the gifts that came out of like those different experiences was I can actually help a lot of people now with what I've firsthand experience has been
Yeah.
versus just hearing about different stories. So I have this firsthand knowledge now. And
Yeah.
but that has meant that, I am I'm pickier now with who I want to
Yes.
date. So
Yeah. No
that's
kidding.
going to so that enables me to not make that too much a part of my life either. So
Well, but we were sort of discussing what the tagline might be for what was that again?
yeah, so I have this idea of I would love to write a book for, a woman's financial journey through her life. And after a year and a half of getting caught up in a property dispute, I was the joke with my friends is I'm going to call the book "Don't Buy a House with Him,"
Yeah,
and
exactly.
other adulting advice from an advisor. And
Oh,
because yeah, and that's obviously like we make generalizations. It's more of a joke, but it's just more of a caution about like
yeah.
I think we as women, like especially like a lot of my friends, like I'm in my early 30s, are getting married, having kids, and the implications of decisions that you make when you're happily in love
Oh,
will be make or break if anything is to happen.
yeah.
And you never think you will be that person.
No.
Never thought I would be that person
No.
to end up on the bad side of that.
Exactly. It's oh, I know, when you're in La La Land, like every decision is the best decision, and it's just like, oh my God. Yeah,
And you
no.
trust the words that you're being told by the person that you love.
Oh,
And
yeah.
unfortunately, there's laws in place that actually like there are things that will happen. Like you have a joint credit card with somebody,
Oh
like,
my God. Yeah.
like these things happen. Like, what
Oh,
does that actually mean? And like there's and
right.
I like to think I'm a smart woman and I know finances, but there are things that you do need to know as you're men and women, as you're navigating life and you're consolidating life with somebody, or you're, detangling a
Yeah.
marriage or relationship. And like if you are in that type of situation, you need somebody to talk to about it that is a professional. Just well, first of all, of course, you can reach out here, but make sure that you find somebody and keep on looking until you do, because they're out there that is going to listen to
Yes.
help you understand things in a way that makes sense to you.
Yes. Great advice. Are you sure you don't want to become a therapist? You,
I'll leave
you,
that one to you.
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe we could team up.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. No, great advice, and I'm glad you said something there. You said, I'm a smart person, or maybe you said something about intelligent, and that's one thing that one of my mentors, said to me one time too, is that you can be very, very intelligent and make, really stupid financial, yeah, choices, right? Like, I mean, and intentional as well. It wasn't like just an emotional, quick decision or something like that, but it's just sort of, yeah, yeah, especially when it comes to relationships and
Especially when
love.
you don't know like who is giving advice and is it in your best interests.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that like one of the things I tell everybody if they're talking to an advisor is ask the advisor how they're getting paid for the advice that they're giving you.
Mm,
Because if you're getting advice from somebody who will get paid if they tell you to invest in one thing, X
mm-hmm,
amount, but
mm-hmm.
50% of that if you invest in the other thing, what
Right.
are they going to tell you to invest in? And it's the same with selling products. Like if you're opening a joint account, that's a product to sell. Do you understand the risks of this? Do you understand what it means when you put money here? And
Mm,
that's why I think anytime you're talking to somebody with your money, like how do you
mm-hmm.
make your money? Are you on a salary or are you going to get paid to sell me something that I don't want or need because that's your job?
Exactly. Like I just thought of something too. Like I don't, like you say, a joint account. Like all these things just sound like there's such common terms and words that you just go, oh yeah, 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 sure, sure. That's that sounds good or whatever. Like and now there's like I have a spousal RSP in my investment portfolio, and when transferring to the robo advisor, they're saying, "Well, who owns it?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." I mean, it's only like 5,000. It's not like it's.
Yeah.
And and so I asked my husband. He's like, "I don't know. Like, do I? I don't know." I'm just like,
Yeah, like why do we have what was this for?
"What?
What was that again?
Yeah, and how do we get rid of it? Like, I mean, that's another thing. Like, I mean, why is it spout? I mean, I understand why it was, but I mean, it's just sort of like,
Yeah.
yeah, silly,
Yeah, you
silly
kind of you
stuff.
take it and you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then you're like, wait a second. Like I found like for me, like the joint account piece and like having like opening a joint account is one thing. That's the money you put in. You open a joint credit card with somebody and they
Oof.
make charges without your authorization. You're out of luck. You're still on the hook to pay that off.
Oh,
So like there's there's like how do you protect your losses in some ways? Like so a joint account, there's only a limited amount of loss, but you have a credit card that has a good limit on it.
oh,
You can that can just explode really. And the same with investment accounts. Like who's making the decisions about the investments? Are you both comfortable with that?
right.
It and then
Yeah.
the big piece in relationships I find that a lot of people skip over too is okay, so when we need our money, how do we get it? Do we pay a
Yeah.
lot of tax? Do we get penalties? Like,
Yeah.
can I sell this investment whenever I want? Because the
Right.
answer is not always yes, and that can
Yeah.
also put you into a bad spot.
Yeah. Yeah. No. We covered a lot of great topics today, and I love that you left the audience with some great suggestions and tips and things like that as well. All very, very helpful.
Thank
It was just a pleasure getting to know you more. And yeah, we'll link up your LinkedIn profile, and yeah, shout out
Let's
to
do it.
to you and your coming company.
Thank you. I appreciate the chance to talk to you. This was great. I feel like I even got a little bit of a therapy session here, so that's
Oh,
wonderful.
well, perfect. Good, good. All right then. Everyone else, we'll see you next week. Have a great week. Thanks,
Bye.
Steph.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Remember that you can watch the full episode on YouTube, where I plan to hang out the most. Your feedback and suggestions for future guests are incredibly valuable to me, so please don't hesitate to post a comment. You are an integral part of this journey.